right order, that means I have 2x minus 3 and 1x plus 5. So if those two terms multiply to give me an answer of 0, how do I figure out what x can equal? Set them both equal to 0 and figure out what x is. Okay, we're going to assume 2x minus 3 is 0. And we're going to figure out what x would be. Well, we'd add 3 and then divide by 2, so x would be 3 halves, or 1.5. Then we'll assume x plus 5 equals 0, and we'll figure out what x would be. So I now know the x-intercepts of this function. We said it opens up. We said it crosses the y-axis at negative 15. And now we know it crosses the x-axis at positive 1/2 and negative 5. That's a pretty skinny parabola because the vertex is way at the bottom and the x-intercepts are pretty close together. All right? We're going to draw this. I might have to ask for questions because I'm not going to be able to come back. Or I could, but I don't want to. All right. We said it crosses the y-axis where? Here. Crosses the x-axis at 1.5. So between 1 and 2. And negative 5. It's the fraction. The middle of that is a fraction. Okay? How are you going to find the middle? Let me ask you this question. You made an 89 and a 93 on 2 tests. What's your average? You add them up, divide by 2, and that's the middle of those two numbers, right? You're trying to find the middle of those 2 points. You're trying to find the average. So you'd add them up and divide by 2.
Why don't you just do the thing that we learned yesterday?
Because we're going extra step.
This is harder.
Okay.
Is this the same thing?
The axis of symmetry, we can do negative b over 2a.
Does this find the same thing as yesterday?
Yeah. Negative b over 2a. What is b? 7. So negative 7 over 2 times 2, 4. What's negative 7 over 4? As a mixed number. Negative 1 and 3/4. My axis of symmetry is somewhere right there. Okay? How do I get what? The y-intercept? Y-intercept is C. It's always C. Okay? Now that we know that our axis of symmetry occurs here, how could we find the vertex? Plug that in for x and solve, right? Okay. This is getting more detailed than I want to. But I wanted you to see how to find the zeros of a function. It's setting the function equal to 0, factoring, and then figuring out what they are. When we're finding the zeros of a function, we're not going to be graphing. We're just going to be looking for those actual answers. Let's go back to last night's homework there, because I know y'all had questions. Number 14 was f of x is equal to 2x squared. Okay. Okay. Yes. No, you don't have to find them every problem. You need to find them if you don't have enough points. This won't work either. You'll have to use a table of values. Watch. That's not what I wanted you to watch. Okay, the first thing is, how does this function open? How do we know it opens up? Because the x squared term is positive. All right? Thank you. Okay. The axis of symmetry can be found by what? But there is no b. So it's 0 over whatever. Doesn't matter what's in the denominator. What's 0 over anything? So my axis is x equals 0. That's the y-axis. My vertex, when x equals 0, I plug that back in and see what I get. 0, 0. It's my y-intercept. 0. Everything's 0. Okay? Y'all remember that little the graph thing that I did where I changed the A's, the B's, and the C's? And the standard parabola, the vertex was on the origin, opening up, and it only touched the x-axis once. This is a standard parabola, but it's a little bit skinnier because my A term is bigger. All right? So how am I going to find more points? Because right now I only know one. You'll have to use a table of values. Okay, because there's only one x-intercept, and that's it. To use a table of values, you only need to find 2 points. And we want to find the mirrored image points. So if you know that the center of this parabola is here, and here's your vertex, and it's opening up, I want to find a point on the left and a point on the right. And I want to try to keep my number small. So I'm going to choose -1 and +1 for x. Choose 2 x's, and let's figure out what y would equal. If x is -1, what's y? 2. If x is +1, what's y?
2.
It should be 2. Now you can figure out 2 more points if you want to, but for me, that's good. Here's your parabola. Okay? I did it again. Okay. Let's look at number 17, because in number 17 you didn't have a b term. Again, you didn't have a b term, but you didn't have a c term. Okay, how does it open? Up. Axis of symmetry is, if there's no b term, what's the axis of symmetry going to be? X equals 0. Because negative b, b is 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. Your vertex, if x is 0, plug that back in and figure out what y equals. What is y? -9. What's your y-intercept? 0, -9. So your vertex and your y-intercept are the same thing. All right? See if we have enough information. Our axis of symmetry is the y-axis. Our vertex sits way down here. That's all we know. I can either use a table of values and find what's y when x is 1 and x is -1, or I could find the x-intercepts and have a better picture of this parabola. How could I find the x-intercepts? Set this equal to 0, factor, right? This is the difference of 2 perfect squares. If I set that equal to 0 and factored, I would have x minus 3 times x plus 3